Hi, this is Alex Anthony. I'm sitting here with a great friend of mine, Dave Goldberg. And Dave, we know each other since 1993, and that seems like eons ago. When did you get started here with Digital Waterworx?
So I would have to say probably 1993. I had a home studio in my parents' house. I was writing, producing, recording a lot of music with friends. They would come over. It was kind of like the Tuesday night music club. That's an inside joke for some people. So we all it was sort of like a workshop. We would all get together a couple nights a week, write some music, record music, send cassette tapes out to publishers and to record labels. Nothing really stuck. I did it for a couple of years straight. In all of that time, I maybe got one or two letters back from, a record label or a music publisher saying, thanks for your submission, sounds great. And, I'm sure it ended up in the garbage with thousands of other submissions. So that was, leading up to like 93. So I had this studio, and back then it was 8-track tape and MIDI. So we were doing a lot of stuff with sequencing and keyboards, but the actual instruments, saxophones and guitars and bass, were all recorded by real musicians to reel 8-track tape.
Now, how did you come up with Waterworx?
Well,
how did that come to your mind?
Yeah, so that's the million-dollar question, and if I had a penny for every time I was asked that question, I probably would be a millionaire. I grew up in Belmore, which is on the south shore of Long Island, and my parents' house was on the water, and I just loved everything water. So I had the studio, and when I sent tapes out, I thought it would be more professional if it didn't sound like it was coming from Dave Goldberg's home studio, but rather a production company. So I would write on the tape, produced at Waterworx or recorded at Waterworx Productions. Now, you fast forward, I was still at Korg at this time as a product specialist. But when I finally decided to leave Korg and to start a business, the name Waterworx was somewhat associated with me. So I decided to incorporate. It was also 1993. Back in the early 90s, it seemed like if you had the word digital in your name, you had a better chance of being successful. That was how it became Digital Waterworx. So in the beginning, I didn't know what I was really going to do. I thought I would continue recording music and demos and I realized pretty soon after I started that doing music was probably not going to afford me the opportunities that I would have if I was producing for corporate America.
Did you know any other people like going into this type of business similar to what you were trying to start and create?
I had friends that were becoming successful. I mean, I grew up with some good musicians. So some of them were getting into the field at that time. I was in my early 20s then. But I definitely got the creative genes from my mother's side of the family. My mother was a musician, went to the High School of Music and Art, which is now Performing Arts, the LaGuardia High School in the city. And I guess I get the entrepreneurial bug from my father's side because my dad is an entrepreneur. My paternal and maternal grandfathers own their own businesses.
Fast forwarding a little bit right now to, say, 95 or 96, 97, in those years, how did you start to expand this business and your clientele, and what steps did you have to take to, trying to get to where you are today?
I went to Hofstra University, and my major, I was a communications major. They had 3 separate tracks at Hofstra at the time. They had TV, radio, and film. I started out in the TV school, but I ended up in the film school. So my degree is a communications degree. My concentration on paper, at least, was film. But my real interest was in TV production, in video production. So I graduated. I'm working at Korg. While I'm at Korg, I had the fortunate opportunity to work on some videos for new products. And there wasn't anybody in the company at the time, internally at Korg, who had experience producing videos. So I was the one sort of thrown into that. And I was the liaison between the company's advertising agency and the company's internal marketing department. So I was working out of some really, really nice studios in the city, getting these videos produced with budgets that even by today's standards were unbelievable. So I produced, a handful of videos. And while I was there, I realized that this is really what I wanted to do. I wanted to produce videos like this and be involved in the creative side, less of the manufacturing, which is what Korg was, and the distribution. So here I am, sort of knowing what I want to do. I'm at a great company, but I realized I wasn't going in the direction that I wanted to go in. And that, again, is partly how I started Digital Waterworx. And of course, back in the 90s, you can't start a business in your 20s and go into video production because you needed $500,000 to, it wasn't like today where you go out and buy a camera and a computer and voila, you're making videos. So now, here we are. I know what I want to do, but I really can't do it because I don't have the $500,000 to get equipment to produce videos. But what I do have the ability to do is create high quality audio. I do have the ability to do radio commercials. I have the music background to record jingles. I know the singers, I know the musicians. So I start doing radio commercials. I start doing the on-hold messages, which became info hold. I had the ability to do that. And that's what I began offering. So my initial offerings to clients was on-hold messages, radio commercials, auto attendant prompts, when you call a company, the voice that greets you and gives you the menu. Right. And I was getting occasional inquiries to do videos, but I wasn't able to do them internally, so I would go to these other studios and get some videos made.
Right. Now, in some of these radio stations now, you are now marketing yourself as the outside production house for them.
Right. In fact, there's a very well-known music streaming service. I'm not at liberty to say who they are because we're on NDA with them, but we produce all of their East Coast commercial content right out of our studios. And like you said, radio stations, we are the preferred production company, if you will, on the outside. The radio stations, as you know, and you probably have a better understanding of how it works, but radio stations have their own in-house production departments, which is
I was a part of, yes.
How we met.
Yeah.
And then they go outside to production companies when they need something that's beyond their internal capability. So we provide that service, whether it be additional voices or maybe more creative copywriting or jingles for that matter. Anything that's just beyond their internal capabilities. And unfortunately today, when radio stations are shrinking, they're also shrinking their departments. So whereas, how many people when you last worked in radio were in production?
Well, we had a staff of, I think, 3 or 4. But then when automation took over, like the DJs would voice over their own shifts for maybe half the pay for the weekends. Yeah. Couldn't say any weather reports, had to make it generic. How to make that generic.
It's got to be nice this weekend.
Yeah, yes, it is. But when that happened...
So there were 3 or 4, and then did it shrink or did it grow?
It was just 2.
2, went down to 2.
Yeah.
And then today you're lucky if you have 1. And what they do is they'll make the jocks actually voice stuff as well. So there'll be like one production person running the gear and doing the editing. Yeah. And then the on-air talent winds up voicing, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
We're getting some of that spillover, but not as much. The bulk of our business today is video production. And we've become a full-service corporate video production house. We're doing TV commercials. We're producing tons of online content. It's incredible. At any one given time, we're in production with 10 to 20 videos, sometimes the same client, sometimes different clients. So new product introductions, we're doing like video newsreels, VNRs. We're interviewing C-level executives where we'll sit with, a C-suite and produce content for their websites. Annual shareholder reports where the president of the company is going to speak to the shareholders. They do that on video and that goes on the website. It's just incredible what's happening.
So you're in business for yourself. You have a studio now and you've got studio space and you brought in some, people that are in the business. How did that start? When did that start?
Well, everything started in 1993 and it was in a very small space. I think it was
Merrick?
In Merrick.
Yeah.
Right. I believe the first space was like 300 or 400 square feet. It was pretty small. It was a control room and a voiceover room. It was bigger than a booth.
Yeah, I remember that. You brought me there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we were there for 2 years, and I would have stayed there longer, except my landlord, who was somebody, an old friend, he was losing his lease, so he had to move out, and I was subletting from him. So I wound up finding the space where we are today in Plainview, Long Island, and it was 1,000 square feet, really perfect space. It suited my needs perfectly. We moved there, and then since then, we're still there now. We've been in that location for 22 years.
Okay.
We needed to expand, and luckily, each time we needed to expand, the space adjacent to us
became available.
Yeah. And so the first expansion was around 2000. We took over a bunch of space, about another 1,000 square feet, and we created more office space and a lounge. About 5 years after that, so 2005, 2006, we expanded again, and that was really when video was beginning to become a real factor for us. And we were producing a lot of video, but I had to go outside for everything. And I wanted desperately to bring it in-house because I wanted the creative control, and I also wanted the control of the project. With the additional space, we created a shooting space, which is about 14 by 24 feet, green screen, backdrops, you name it, multi-camera. We outfitted it with teleprompters, professional lighting, and we've upgraded that space multiple times. Today it's 4K cameras, LED lighting, state-of-the-art sound treatment in the room, as well as everything that goes along with it. So that's how we sort of expanded. And each time we expanded, we added services and we added, more people into the mix. And the cool thing about the business today is that we have a very loyal base of contractors.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And every time I come here to visit you now, and there's so many different designs that you've done with the studio here. I'm looking around, another part of the office opens up.
Seems that way, but it's not.
But it does look nice. Even the video room there.
We really like the way that room looks now. It's really come together nicely.
It turned out great. I mean, the soundproofing here, I must say, really, that is the most important thing, especially when you do voiceovers and everything.
Yeah.
It turned out great.
More than the sound treatment, it's also decorative sound treatment, so it's nice.
It is.
Has that aesthetically pleasing look to it. Yeah.
Really, this business has, I've seen you over the years now and become very successful with
I think
this.
you might be, actually, of all the people in my circle, I'm actually just doing a quick inventory. I think you're probably the one person that knows me the longest, because we definitely met before the business started.
Oh, yeah.
And then, everybody in my circle has been with me a long time for the most part, but you definitely, you're up there.
Yeah. But
At least as one of the regulars. There have been transients. People have come and gone over the time, but
this the phone on hold messaging too. A lot of people that, it's just bland music, whatever it is. It's a good way to market your business and to give the customer, whoever's on hold, information that they may pick up and then buy some more product from you, or pass it on to a friend.
Learn something they didn't know.
Right.
It's interesting. I started, my first on hold message was produced when I worked at Korg, because we used to have just the radio playing on hold. And then we might have gone to something else but we were a company that manufactured musical instruments. And we had artist endorsees, Billy Joel, the Rolling Stones, Hall & Oates, Madonna. You had all these people using the company's products. And one day I was like, this is ridiculous. So I went to my boss. I said, listen, why don't I create something when we have customers on hold, they get to actually hear the new products played by the artists who endorse our products. Great idea. So that's how that was born. And while I was at Korg and doing that, I produced some on-hold messages for friends who had businesses. My father had a business. Great story about my dad. My dad was probably the first. My dad's company was probably the first message on hold that I produced outside of Korg. He was in commercial lighting product manufacturing. One of the products they had was, it's called a safety sleeve, but they're basically either clear or colored tubes that fluorescent light bulbs go into. So if you put a blue sleeve over the fluorescent light, it looked like blue, kind of like neon. It was like poor man's neon, but it was used in a lot of arcades and restaurants and anywhere that had fluorescent lighting and they needed to put a gel or a color on it. So they would sell them by the thousands, literally by the caseloads. So one day, one of his good customers is checking on an order for not safety sleeves, but is checking on an order for some other product. While he's on hold, he happens to hear a whole spiel about safety sleeves. Customer service rep gets back on the phone. He says, "How long you guys been selling safety sleeves?" She says, "What do you mean how long? We sell them for years." And he's like, "I've been buying these other products from you for 10 years. I never knew you had safety sleeves." She says, "What, you never looked at our catalog? It's on page 3 in the catalog." He's like, "Why would I look in your catalog? I buy these other products from you all the time. I don't really look at your catalog. You have it, I order it, and that's it." He says, "I've been buying safety sleeves from a company out of state that 30 seconds that he was on hold,
There you go. Yes.
turned into a $5,000 recurring order." And that was one customer success story. So you can imagine how powerful something like that can be when you have to cross-promote a product. You put somebody on hold. Even in our own business, we put people on hold. They come back on. They go, "Oh, I didn't know you guys do video production."
Well,
"Yeah, I've been looking to do a video for my website." Boom. Or vice versa. We're doing a video for somebody, and then they hear that we get involved in radio commercials or other services. This is a good one. Somebody's got radio on hold, and let's say it's a car dealer.
yeah, they hear a commercial
For a competitor.
a competitor
Yeah.
on that radio
Right,
station.
right. So you're calling Land Rover, you get put on hold, and there's a commercial for BMW or Lexus. It's hysterical. There's so many. It's one of those things that's out of the business owner's mind. Like, people don't think about what's on hold.
Correct.
And then there's that great line of we don't put people on hold for very long. Then why is the hold button on every phone usually red? Why does it stand out? If it's such an unimportant feature on the phone, why is it the only key on the phone that's a different color?
Yes. Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be the same color as something else?
Yeah. Like you said, in 30 seconds, somebody learns something, you get more business from it. They may say, "Oh, we don't put people on hold for long." Well, 30
seconds goes really fast.
30 seconds goes quickly. It does.
It
And in
actually
that 30
goes,
seconds.
it goes faster when you're listening to something. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Think about 30 seconds of silence. If you and I didn't say anything right now for 30 seconds, it would be a really long time. Here, let's just do a quick experiment. You ready? Here we go. Okay, that was 5 seconds.
Feels like
And it
eons.
felt like eons, right? Yeah. So now imagine 30 seconds. To have something to fill that gap is so important. And we revolutionized something a few years ago called reality on hold. It's basically this. It's what we're doing right now. It's a conversation. So we interview the business owner or the marketing person at the company or maybe a product manager about new happenings in the business. And that becomes their message on hold. So it's not a scripted on hold message with a laundry list of products and services. It's an actual dialogue. And now the person on hold thinks they're listening to a radio show where the business owner was interviewed. That's become such a powerful vehicle for us to offer.
It has. And getting back to the silence, 5 seconds, in that 5 seconds,
They may think they've been disconnected. Or maybe it's not 5 seconds. Maybe it's 15 seconds and they're in their car and they hear some static or something like that. Hello, hello, hello. And nobody's answering on the other line, so they hang up. Maybe they'll never call back again. Maybe they get distracted and forget to call back.
And they forget, yeah.
And you lose the sale. So it's been a very important part of our business. It's our roots, and we've never really forgotten about it. It's free advertising is what I say.
On the phone, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool. You've been listening to WDWX with my good friend David Goldberg. I'm Alex Anthony. As you always say, Dave, make it a great day.
Make it a great day. Thanks, Al.
Bye-bye.